Okay guys, so now we are going to have a look at support for label filtering, so let's get into it. So here is our application, and you can see here that we have a few labels, and now I've added so that you can actually click this thing and it's actually going to be a reflection of the labels that you find here. So since we have QQ on both of these, if I click QQ, we expect nothing to happen. Like as we can see here, it's not filtering or anything like that. But if I select ASD, it's just going to show the one that has that label, and if I select foo, it's going to be just that one. And then I can, of course, deselect them if I wish. And that's pretty much our features. So let's have a look at the code. So the first thing that we needed to do is, as you may suspect, is basically to add a context property. Well, we're going to have to add a set selected tag function that's just going to take a translation tag and then the actual translation tag, the thing that has been selected. And then we add that to our app state. We add it to like a default value here, which is just going to be an empty string. We bind our function so we can pass it through our components, and then we add the properties to our context value. And here is our magical function that simply sets the property that we pass in. And then we update our translation list here so that we actually add another filter function. And it's very similar to when we filter on just text. When we are searching, we're going to have a function that just filters on the tag. So we check if there is a selected tag, and well, if there's no selected tag, we simply return true for all the elements, and then we just pass them back. Otherwise, we're going to search through the tags, and we're going to see if we can find any tag that is equal to the selected tag. And then we will simply return the elements that have a tag that is equal to that. And in our filtering box, we've made quite a few changes, as you can see here. So let's actually walk through the entire thing here. So basically what's happened now is that we have removed the show drop them. Actually, no, it was actually simpler to see it with the diff like that. So we've removed the actual passing in of any properties because now we want the context to hold our state, or like we're going to just grab the selected tag from the state instead of having it as a property. And that means that we add our iContext prop interface, so that's going to be passed in. And then we change from state to the prop, like the context. Same thing here for the tag name. We simply add all of these references here. And then down here we have a changed, reset the selected tag, so that when we actually reset it, when we click the little X icon, we simply set the selected tag to an empty string. That's about it really. And then down here, well, as you can see, it's pretty much boilerplate with app context. We wrap our component class and we get our higher order, our wrapper, which is going to hold the consumer for our context. And yeah, that is pretty much it. At least for this component, I think. Nothing else that stands out. So if we look at the tag filtering dropdown, which is the actual, like the component that holds this dropdown, we can see that I've added a, we're now going to grab the context here as well. And then we have this little helper function called getTags, which is going to be down here. So basically what we're going to do is that we are going to, instead of having these hard-coded values here, we're going to go through the translations on the context, and then we're going to call reduce on them, and that's where getTags gets into play. And basically all this is that it's going to take an accumulator, which is going to be an array of the translation tags, and the item is going to be the translation, and then we simply concatenate together all of the tags that are in that list. So each translation, we loop through them, we grab all the tags for each of the items or each translation, and then we're going to filter. And this little filter here is going to take the value, the index, and a reference to the array itself. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to do an index of the value and check if that is equal to this index. And this in effect becomes a way for us to check whether or not a value is unique. So if you go through the array and you find, and you start looking at the first element, and then you do an index of, which is going to be from that point forward, and then it's going to check if the index of that element is equal to the index that you are on. If that is the case, that means that your you're the only element in that array. Otherwise, you're going to return false, and then that element is going to be exhausted. And then you're going to do that until there are no more. Like you find that this is the only element that in that list. So this is a neat little trick if you want to make something unique. And that's about it, really. We have added a little bit of change here where, right, so we grab the text context, or if there is no text content, we are simply going to use an empty string, and then we're going to set the selected tag to that value when somebody actually clicks, well, when somebody selects something within the, from the dropdown. And we wrap it in an apt context so we can get access to the context. So yeah, that is pretty much it, right? I think I covered all of that. And then finally, like, I just made a small change here from, like, this is no longer, like, it's always going to be a tag of some sort now. It's just going to be an empty tag if there is none. And we're still guarding against that. And yeah, that is pretty much our feature. So now we can filter as much as we want. Great. So let's call that done. And next is going to be being able to revert things so that we can actually get a history of, well, basically we want to be able to see a list of all the changes to a translation and have the ability to go back to a previous version. And that's about it, really. So let's have a look at that in the next video.